everyone, welcome back to my channel. So today I wanted to talk about the technological advancements of the last decade. And the reason I started thinking about this was because I placed an Instacart order yesterday. For those of you that don't know what Instacart is, if you're not here in the United States, it is an app where you can order your groceries and have them delivered, or you can go and pick them up. So basically, somebody else does your shopping for you, and then you just go get your groceries. Um, and I started thinking to myself, a decade ago, this wouldn't have been possible. I wouldn't have been able to order my groceries like that. Um, and the reason I had to do this is because my caregiver, which is my mother, she's on vacation. So both of my parents are gone for a few weeks, and so I have to kind of fend for myself. Um, and it did get me thinking, if this had been a decade ago, um, it might have been a much more complicated situation. For those of you that are new to my channel, I have a lot of symptoms, a lot of different symptoms, but one of the most, I guess, limiting symptoms is my light sensitivity. I have two videos about my light sensitivity. Go check those out. That way I don't have to like re-explain everything. As a result of my light sensitivity, I can't do a lot of shopping inside of a store, grocery stores, clothing stores, because of the type of lighting that they use. And so I started thinking, because the light sensitivity started, I would say, close to a decade ago. Uh, so I've had that limitation for quite some time. I've been sick for close to, I think, almost 17 years this year. But this symptom that has sort of kept me from being able to actually do things um, has been, has been around for probably close to 10 years. During that time, I kind of try to rewind back to when my light sensitivity started and think of what was going on at the time, as far as technology, as far as social media. And I remember that I had, at the time, I was like writing online for this. I guess it was like a news kind of, it was almost like a crowdsourcing news platform where people would just go and write and you would get paid like pennies per article that you wrote. I don't think it exists anymore. But the way that you would promote your writing and your articles was through social media. And at that time, I think it was just Twitter and maybe Facebook. And I think Twitter was actually new around that time. And so I did have a Twitter account. I opened a Twitter account, but I never really got to use it because then I started having the neurological issues, the light sensitivity, and it affects my use of, a phone and a laptop. At the time, it was mostly just, doing this through a laptop, because I don't even think smartphones were around yet. That's how long I've been sick. And for those of you that have also been sick for quite some time, you're going to see things change and evolve during the course of your illness. I mean, the world continues to advance, things continue to move, and even though our lives kind of stay in one place. And so when I placed my order yesterday on Instacart, I thought to myself how fortunate I was to be able to do that, because I don't have anybody here right now. And so it got me thinking, what else? What else has technology given to those of us, or given back to those of us who are chronically ill? And so I kind of came up with, a list of things. And again, I've spoken about this before in other videos. Technology and social media can be a blessing and it can be an absolute curse for those of us who suffer from chronic medical conditions. And it has helped many of us find our diagnosis, find out what's wrong with us. But the journey is a long one and it's complicated and it can be sometimes be very ugly. But I just kind of wanted to maybe do more of a positive video this time around, because I have done videos on sort of the drawbacks of, social media for those of us who are sick. Um, So I'm going back in time, about a decade, and I believe that I think Instagram. I know Facebook was around, but I didn't really use Facebook. I still don't really use Facebook. I stopped using my Twitter, even though it was still there, and I still have the same Twitter account. And I tried to think about Instagram. What was Instagram doing at the time? And I do believe I was still married and I was still living with my husband, because I think some of my first posts were in the apartment that we were renting together. So social media was around. It was just new. It wasn't like people weren't really using it the way that they use it now. For those of us with chronic illness, these social media can be a game changer. One of the platforms that I see a lot of people, a lot of sick people on, is Facebook, because of Facebook groups. So before Facebook groups, there were like forums and message boards. I know the Lyme disease community has one. At this point, every major and minor illness, even rare conditions like, like stiff person syndrome, they have message boards. I think they used to be called forums, but I think they're called message boards now. I'm not really sure what the exact terminology is. It's where you go and you post something and then other people go and read it and then they respond. And Facebook has sort of facilitated that and sort of brought it all into one platform. And we know that Facebook has been very problematic, especially during the pandemic, with a lot of misinformation. For some people, they consider Facebook a godsend, that it's, a platform where we can talk freely about anything, but it is a double-edged sword because there's a lot of misinformation on there. But for those of us with very specific conditions or even very rare conditions, Facebook has been a place where we can find other people with our condition. And I actually joined the stiff person syndrome group before I was diagnosed, because I was already suspecting that I had that condition. And the people in there were very helpful with my blood work, because my doctor wasn't helpful with it. If you want to know that story, go look at the video that's called I think Horrible Doctors or the Worst Doctors Ever, something like that. And the Facebook group really helped me to navigate my blood test results, and also to finally get to the doctor that actually diagnosed me and prescribed my medication for stiff person syndrome. And I met another patient of that doctor there in the group, and he was very nice and helpful. So, instead of forums, now we have these Facebook groups. I'm in the Lyme disease Facebook group, which, again, there's good and bad in there. And then more recently, I'm in the, stem cells and exosomes Facebook group. There's one group that is just for patients. And it's been, helpful to go and be able to see that there are other people that are doing these treatments, and, kind of talk to them and see and get their opinion on things. Obviously, that's not the best way, to get your medical advice, but it's helpful for those of us, who are limited in who we can talk to. And of course, as time has gone on and the internet has evolved, all of the major and minor illnesses have their own websites, their own organizations. There's, I forget what it's called. I don't know if it's called inspire.org, or there's a few websites just for rare. I think it's called raredisease.org. So if you have a rare condition, that's where you go, and they have a listing of all of the rarest conditions. And I think that was one of the websites that I used when I was looking into stiff person syndrome. So obviously there have been a lot of good things in the last 10 years. And then of course, smartphones, which I'm trying to think what phone I had. I think I had one of those, like, it looked like a phone, but you could open it and type on it, but it still wasn't a smartphone. I think it was kind of like a hybrid smartphone, and one of the older, like, phones with the like a keyboard on it. But I think by the time I left my apartment and I got divorced, I think smartphones were already a thing. I think that was when I had like my first or my second real smartphone. And I'll talk about that again a little bit more at the end of this vlog. And then, now at that time there weren't as many from what I can remember, there weren't that many delivery apps. Now we have Instacart, we have Amazon, we have eBay, and a bunch of other ones that I still haven't used. I know that there's a million of them. You can even have like a food, like they deliver all the ingredients of the food to you. What is it called? My sister uses it. And I'm always getting offers for these types of services where they send you all the ingredients and then the instructions and you can make it yourself at home. So I think that has also been a big game changer for those of us that are homebound or are limited in where we can go. These apps have been a lifesaver for many of us who are high risk during this pandemic. I've used Instacart on and off when I haven't, like when my parents haven't been able to go do my groceries, Amazon and eBay when I need to get certain specific items or just personal care items, things like that. But the one thing that I think is irreplaceable, and I don't know I'm trying to think of the word, the thing that these apps and the internet has given us access to, especially those of us who are chronically ill, is finding specialty items, foods, supplements that are not readily available anywhere else. And I know there's a lot of controversy over people using Amazon because of their business practices. And even Instacart. I know there was a big controversy over Instacart during the last few years of the pandemic and just how much they pay, their workers and stuff like that. But for those of us who are sick, these having access to these companies and these apps right on our phone has been, it's like I said, it's irreplaceable. There's nothing that can come close to how helpful and how much access this has given us to things that we need. I've been able to get my supplements delivered to my house. I've been able to order supplements that are very, very specific, specialty supplements, because not everything, I mean, as you guys know, I have intolerances to everything. And so sometimes I have to get a specific supplement from a specific brand. Or, I have to have a certain combination of supplements. And, a lot of these apps also allow you to see the ingredients in your supplements or the specific food item that you're looking for. So it is, truly a lifesaver for many of us. And it's just that access, the accessibility of it, and sort of allowing us to be able to explore things that we otherwise would not have been able to find, on our own, because we can't venture out, or the local store doesn't carry what it is that we're looking for. It also has helped a lot of us find the doctors that have eventually helped us. Like I said, through Facebook groups, forums, websites that are specific to our conditions, we've been able to talk to other people and get referrals to physicians that eventually knew more about our specific condition and what was going on in our bodies. I'm trying to think. I found my doctor kind of through word of mouth, but I know that I found a lot of physical therapists and, people like that through searches on the internet. And for many of us, we've been able to find some obscure treatments, and this can be a good thing and a bad thing. And I've seen this a lot, especially on Facebook and Facebook groups. There are a lot of obscure kind of fringe treatments that have actually helped some people. I think one that I can think of is like a Rife machine. I know a lot of people in the Lyme community have used Rife machines and they swear by them. And that's something that is pretty obscure that you really don't hear about that much. And I think I heard about it, I think in a Facebook group, in a Lyme disease Facebook group. So it kind of it gives you a lot of access, maybe too much access to things that we probably, that may not be safe, but for some people it's become a lifeline. Obviously, it gives you more independence. You can order your food, get it delivered to your house. There's Postmates now. If you want fast food, you can have it delivered to your house instead of having to go out and get it. Because some of us can't. Some people can't walk, some people can't drive. So it allows you more independence. It also allows you to plan ahead. I know that there are apps where you can um, check out different restaurants and see their menu online. I think you can even see whether they have like disabled accessible bathrooms, um, and things like that. And so you can also make a reservation in advance, um, at a restaurant. That way, that there's availability the day that you get there. So a lot of those things, especially for those of us who are sick, have to plan ahead for everything. So it's not, life before these apps and the internet was probably a lot more difficult for people with chronic illnesses. And I'm sort of, the internet was already around when I got sick, um, but I was sort of on the edge of, you know, there was internet, but the apps and delivery services were just kind of taking off. I can't even remember if Amazon was around yet. I think Amazon's been around for a long time, but it wasn't like what it is now. Amazon was something different back then. Um, so what I wanted to say about my phone though, for many people that are chronically ill, they now have access to the world or to the World Wide Web, even if they're bedridden, if they can't walk, if they can't leave their home, you have your laptop, you have your phone. The smartphone has even made it more accessible because it's smaller and it's right in the palm of your hand. So you can literally be in bed. I actually sell things. I do a lot of thrifting and I can sell things just from my bed. I can just, it's so convenient. But my light sensitivity kind of shut me off from that entire world. So I had to stop using Twitter. I had just, I think, opened my Instagram account, and I really couldn't use it much. Like I could use things for very short periods of time. I think when my light sensitivity developed, the iPod Touch had just come out. iPhones were not a thing yet. And I had an iPod Touch, and there were apps on that, like apps that you could just, play games on or things like that. I don't think like ordering stuff was really a thing yet. And once my light sensitivity hit, I couldn't use it anymore. I couldn't look at the screen. It was difficult to even play my music off of it because I couldn't look at the screen long enough, to find a playlist or any of that. So it was really devastating. And I think for a couple of years, I was just kind of cut off from the internet and whatever was going on in the world. Like I didn't know anything about the news. I didn't know any kind of celebrity gossip, nothing. And I just was like, well, I'll never be able to use a smartphone for anything other than making phone calls. I was no longer able to use a laptop, and so I couldn't work from home. That's when I became completely disabled. And that is really scary because you're even the little bit of access that I had at the time, I lost. I couldn't go to a market, I couldn't, do all of those things physically, and now I couldn't even do them from home. Fortunately, basically just by mistake or by accident, I ended up getting a new smartphone. At the time, I think I went from like the Droid something to the Droid Max. This was years ago, like 2012. And for whatever reason, the screen was not as painful. And I always think to myself, this was like a gift from God because I really didn't think I was ever going to be able to use a smartphone, you know, ever. Already knew I couldn't use laptops, I couldn't use projectors, I couldn't watch flat screen TVs. But for whatever reason, that phone was not as painful to look at. And I actually, for whatever reason, was okay with it. And so over time, I discovered that a certain type of screen, a certain type of backlight on a phone was not as painful as other types. And so I was able to use a phone. I now have a different phone besides the Droid Max, which has worked out more or less for me because I kind of know what kind of screen is not going to be as painful. It doesn't mean that there's zero pain, but I am able to use it. And so having access to Instacart, to Amazon, to eBay, to all of these things, even just a regular, browser, has been a game changer for me at least. And I know that it's helped a lot of other people out there who are chronically ill. And it's just wild to me that I've been sick for so long, that we've gone from, before smartphones to smartphones to social media within a span of 10 years. And I can't imagine what being disabled would have been like 15 years ago or 25 years ago, when this didn't exist. So it was just something that came to my mind, and just the advancements, the crazy rapid advancement of social media and the internet and apps, and how that has transformed our lives, particularly those of us who are sick. And trust me, I was very grateful yesterday because I had run out of eggs, and there was no way that I could go and do a full grocery store run on my own. And we're still at the tail end of a pandemic. I'm still unvaccinated, and I was just like, I can't take the risk. And like magic, I just had my groceries delivered and left at my door, and that was it. So let me know in the comments how social media and smartphones and apps have transformed your life and made your life easier as a chronically ill person. Please like and subscribe, and I will see you in the next one. Take care.